Hey everyone, it's 10 Types, and Black Bolt and White Flare released around a week ago at the time of posting or recording this, and they're pretty interesting sets. They got some decent basic EXs with like Zekrom EX. I think Meloetta EX is solid. I haven't really messed with it, but then you have Genesect EX, which is really nice. And then you also have some really good trainers in Special Energy like Air Balloon, Prism Energy, Tool Scrapper, and also I guess Ignition Energy, which are kind of reprints, but are very good. Brave Bangal's good, Hilda's good. So a lot of really solid cards in the set. It's not, or these two sets, if you put them together and say it's one set, then it's a solid set here. Um, However, the Pokemon are a little boring. There's just a few good basic EXs. And I don't think any of the Stage 2 EXs are super good. However, there's a lot of really cool Stage 1s in this set. Some of them are very good. The title of the video is like saying that they're not that good. They're just okay. There are some that are very good. I'm not going to spend as long on them though because they've been talked about more. But I want to talk today about what I consider the more interesting stage ones in the set. The ones that are good but not like great. And when I say good, I mean like have potential, not necessarily competitive level cards, though they could be close to that. But I'm going to talk about the good ones as well here. But I also do want your ideas down below in the comments on deck ideas. I've been messing around with some of these stage ones here. And some of them are super cool, but also they have potential, but they struggle to always hit that potential as well. But the first card we have here is Eelektrik. As I said, I'm going to start with the strong ones. Eelektrik here is a very solid card here with the ability Dynamotor, saying once during your turn before you attack, you can attach a basic Lightning from your discard to one of your benched Pokemon. Eelektrik is a good card. We see this card. It's like essentially a reprint of the Eelektrik from Noble Victories here in the Black and White era. Of course, these two sets are obviously a reference to the Black and White era. So, unsurprisingly, we get a reprint here of a good Pokemon, and it's still good. Obviously, these cards are new, but this one has already been seeing some play. It's not like insanely good, I wouldn't say. It's not like one of the best Pokemon in the format, but it's still very, very solid here. A nice card, and Energy Acceleration that isn't like very hard to set up is just generally going to be good. So Eelektrik, of course, is pretty good here with like I was expecting to see it down here. It's not here because that would be on Play Limitless, not regular Limitless. But it's been played in the Eelektrik box deck or what's it called? Is it Miraidon box? Not sure. Yeah, it looks like it's Miraidon Eelektrik is how Limitless is categorizing it, which it's okay. This win rate looks like kind of bad. The deck isn't super amazing. It's similar to the Miraidon EX deck played previously, which sometimes it played Flaffy. I think this list here, though, does not play. Yeah, this does not play Flaffy here. I believe that rotated at the time of this deck being played. This one I'm looking at here, but it did play Electric Generator, which we are now seeing back with the Electric, and also even older we see it with Flaffy, which is the same card essentially as the Electric. They're actually like functionally identical, as well as the old Electric. I said it wasn't technically a reprint, which it isn't, but it really is. So this isn't even like that new, and the Pokemon's being partnered with isn't even a new combo either. So, a very, very solid card here, but not like absolutely insane either. I do think it will end up being, by the time it rotates, considered a good card. As I said, not like insane, but definitely pretty solid here. The other good stage one that is like definitely good is Jellicent EX here. Jellicent EX isn't actually that good on its own. It's kind of mediocre. Its attack here for one psychic does 8, or sorry, for one psychic and one colorless does 80, but one psychic and 3 colorless it would do 160. And that 3 colorless attack cost is actually really important here because 3 colorless energy can be paid for using the new special energy, which is also again kind of like a reprint, which is Ignition Energy, which is 3 colorless on an evolution, and Ignition Energy is also a card that is really nice and really important for these evolutions, and also best with stage 1s. I mean, it works with stage 2s as well. But obviously, stage 2s are hard to get into play, so if you have a good stage 1 that can be paid for using 1 energy, that's really nice there. And now you can have an attack that would normally be 3 colorless that is now just 1 energy. The main one before Black Bolt White Flare that used that attack cost was, I guess, Wugtrio. I don't think I'm missing anything. I mean, there's some that are like okay. I think there's like Oinkologne, which is an older card, which is like kind of okay with some control things. It's not super good. It's actually like the same though as I believe the Stoutland, I think, is the stage 2 there. I might be getting the wrong Pokemon in the line, but it has like a similar attack, but it's a stage 2. As I said, obviously stage 1 better than a stage 2 there, but that's not like super good. So Jellicent is a user of that theoretically if you want to play it without Gardevoir, but obviously you probably want to play it with Gardevoir. Oh, also its ability, it item locks if it's in the active. That's the good part about it. The attacks are not so good, but if you obviously need to be in the active, you don't want to be doing something you want to attack, so you need a boy to get a bunch of energy on, so you use Gardevoir. So Gardevoir is good. We're going to be talking about Gardevoir a lot coming up because I've been talking about a lot the new sets, Mega Brave and Mega Symphonia, which are making up Mega Evolutions, which are really good for Gardevoir because there's some crazy cards in it for the deck, but again, that's for later. But obviously, you power it up and you attack and you item lock, and that's good. There's not too much to break down, but the cards are Jellicent, EX, and Eelektrik, both really solid cards. So I want to mention those. Also, speaking of Gardevoir, we have the next stage 1, the first one here that isn't super strong. This is Cofagrigus. This one isn't like crazy interesting. It has seen some play in Gardevoir, not too much. When I say it's seen play, I've been notably talking about mostly talking about Japan, where of course there the cards have been out longer, so there are more tournament results, though those are harder to find in English, of course. But Cofagrigus here has 2 attacks, but the second one's bad. The first one here for Psychic Color says it's called Extended Damagrigus. Not really sure where that comes from. Comment down below if you know, like, why is there 3 eyes? But anyways, you move all damage counters from one of your bench Pokemon to one of your opponent's Pokemon. So it's like a healing snipe damage or like active damage attack, and it's like kind of like a Munkidori type card, except it's an attack. And it's actually more expensive than Munkidori. So it's not that good. Kind of similar idea. We could put in Gardevoir to like do a bunch of damage. Again, kind of like Munkidori, but like Munkidori isn't your attack, so it's not super impressive, but theoretically could be really nice if your opponent like hits into your Gardevoir EX for like a ton of damage. But it's still like very situational. It's kind of cool. You could also accelerate a bunch of energy to one Pokemon and then heal it off completely to do a big snipe attack. That's kind of interesting, kind of like Screamtail, but it does move damage counter, so it would go through Shaman there, and also it heals, right? So it's a little bit different than the Screamtail, but of course the Screamtail will have the energy on and then presumably get knocked out, and then the energy is back in your discard. If you use Cofagrigus, your opponent's probably not going to target the Pokemon with a bunch of energy on it, because then if they don't target it, then you won't be able to use Cofagrigus' attack again. You could use Perplex, I guess, but you can't use Extended Damagrigus again, presumably, because you probably won't have damage on your board. So it doesn't work super well here. I will say that there's another Cofagrigus as well that has some synergies here. There's the EX as well, which is kind of a cool card. I haven't played. Wait, have I played with this? I don't know. It's like not super good. But the Cofagrigus from Surging Sparks puts 6 damage counters on each Pokemon in play that has an ability, both yours and your opponent. So it's kind of like a Frostlass here, and of course Frostlass also kind of synergizes with Munkidori. So you could put this in and pair it with the other one. So you could do damage to yourself and then like move it off. That seems really weird and clunky. I haven't really heard of anyone trying it out. Maybe someone has, and I've just missed it. Obviously, these cards, specifically the Black Bolt one or the Wave Flare one, pretty new here, but still a little clunky, but kind of fun. Then we have the next card. This is the last EX. I mean, we only talked about one EX so far, but this is the second EX and the last one that we're talking about, which is Whimsicott EX here. Energy gift for 1 grass. Search your deck for up to 3 basic energy cards and attach them to your Pokemon in any way you like, then shuffle your deck. This is kind of like a Joltik, but it's on a stage 1/2 riser, so that's kind of bad. Obviously has a lot more HP, but outside of that, I guess it also has free retreat, but outside of those things, it's just like way worse being a stage 1. So this card is unfortunately kind of bad for that attack. The second attack, though, is a little more interesting, or at least I think it's a little better. Wondrous Cotton here for 1 grass. You do 50 for each trainer in your opponent's hand. They reveal their hand and you do that damage. So you don't know how much you're doing before, most likely. However, this is like, it's probably doing okay damage, like 150, 200 is what I'd have to guess. Obviously, it kind of depends on how many cards are in their hand, but I'd say on average, that makes sense. And that's potentially one-shotting the grass weak Pokemon in the game, like Mars Grimmsnarl EX, Charizard EX, Cynthia's Garchomp EX, Mamoswine EX, Hydreigon EX, these high HP stage 2s, or I guess like average HP stage 2 EXs, which is so the highest in the game. And you can one-shot them with weakness, so that's like cool. Well, you can hopefully one-shot them with weakness. We'll talk about looking into your opponent's hand in just a second here, but Whimsicott EX is, I think with Wondrous Cotton, it's okay as a tech option. I'm just kind of sketchy because it's not even that good as a tech option, and on top of that, it's it's pretty bad the rest of the time, right? If you're doing 150 or 200 damage, for one, that's not like horrendous, but it's not really good enough, and you're also kind of weak as well. Actually, no, you're very weak in terms of HP for a stage 1 EX, and your first attack is theoretically useful, but it's, again, not super good here. It's, I'd say, pretty situational, because, again, Joltik is good, but it's only really good turn 1 going second. You could do it turn 2 going first, I guess, but, like, it's not a spectacular attack to be using throughout the course of the game. It's just really good once, so Energy Gift doesn't really have a place, and so it's just like it's a cool card, but it doesn't quite get there. But speaking of looking at your opponent's hand, we have the first card I'm really excited to talk about here. There's 3 cards that I'm really most excited to talk about, and Mandibuzz is the first one, and the first of the ones that I've been playing as well. As I said, I've played with some of these, but there's 3, as I said, that I've been thinking about and playing with, investing with in Standard and Expanded. I haven't actually messed with Mandibuzz in Expanded, but it's a really interesting card here, and its ability is Look for Prey, which says once during your turn, you may use this ability. Your opponent reveals their hand and puts a basic from their hand, or you put a basic from their hand, so you choose with 7 HP or less that you find there onto their bench, which is pretty nice. Also, you do have an attack here, which I think is like kind of okay for 3 colors, doing 90. It's not that good, but it is like it's not horrible either. I guess, I mean, it's not really something, obviously not something you want to build around, but it is like, if you're playing not triple acceleration, ignition energy, there we go, it's like it's okay. But anyways, the ability does a few things, and I've talked about this ability a bunch in the past, maybe more than it deserves, but as I said, I do think this card is really cool. Oh, also, I do want to apologize that my thoughts are kind of scattered right now. I did just wake up, but your ability here lets you look at your opponent's hand, which is cool. Not all the time, you cannot use the ability if your opponent has a full bench. That is meaningful, but if they don't, you can look at their hand, which is useful, and also you can get a Pokemon down onto their bench, which can be used to snipe it, and it can also be used to get it trapped. So I played a deck, I only played like, I might have just been 1 game with this, and I don't even think I like really used Mandibuzz, because my opponent just, well, I used it a little. They filled their bench pretty quickly. I think they were playing Festival Lead, and they also weren't playing super well. And I almost lost, which is kind of embarrassing. But Mandibuzz, being able to look at their hand was something I used, and it was like moderately useful. It kind of gave me knowledge about, it gave me obviously knowledge of what was in their hand, to know kind of what to play around, but also what was in their deck, because they were playing a Rillaboom, which was almost really bad for me. But then I knew that that was in their deck and something to watch out for. So it does give you knowledge of your opponent's hand and the resources they have access to. Of course, they're going to top deck at the beginning of the turn, so viewing your opponent's hand is like, it's okay. It's definitely something nice to be able to do, but it's not like absolutely crazy. I will say on the fact that you need to, your opponent needs to have an open bench slot. Most of the time, they presumably will, because it's generally not a good idea to fill your bench, but also they can like kind of play around this to obviously not let you use it and fill their bench. And it's not usually that bad to fill your bench either. It's nice to have the extra versatility for the open bench slot, but also it's generally like, if you think ahead enough, it's also like you can probably fill it and it should be okay as well. And if you have a reason to fill it, then it's not a huge penalty. Oftentimes when we talk about these cards where your opponent can make some play to play around it, we say like, oh, well, it's still good because now you're forcing them to go down this route to play around your play. But again, it's not a huge downside, so they might just be able to turn it off, but then they do have more Pokemon. And if you're playing a control style deck, that is actually bad. So for them, probably, they might be able to fill their bench with Pokemon that, I don't know. I don't think they can fill up bench with Pokemon that can all attack easily, because they're going to have, I mean, with Air Zero Underdepths, you could have more, but presumably they have 6 Pokemon in play. Presumably they're not all able to attack. Of course, with something like Latias EX, they could all retreat around. I'd say the biggest issue would be if they have a switching card like Pecker and EX, but if they don't, then you can get a Pokemon like Latias EX, right? If they have that in play, they presumably can't attack with it. Obviously, it kind of depends on what they're playing, but most decks that play it can attack with it. Then you get it trapped with something like, or specifically probably Knackley. Knackley, if you're not familiar with it, it does. Knackley is actually pretty good in Standard. It does 10 and stops your opponent's active from retreating on their turn. And also it is fighting, which is very important because Pokemon like Mew EX, Squawkabilly EX, and Latias EX, which can attack, the others can probably attack, but Mew EX cannot, Latias EX cannot attack, and so then you get them trapped, and they don't take any damage because of resistance there. And also, speaking of them not being able to attack, you obviously don't want them attacking you because you want to get them trapped forever. Latias can attack probably, but UEX and Squawkly EX can. However, they're not doing very much damage. So if you put on, I guess you could do Rocky Chestplate. I was going to say Defiance Vest, but you could. That showed all the Rocky or Rocket's Pokemon. What's that card? Oh, Rock Chestplate, not Rocky Chestplate. So yeah, it will protect you here. So then you could use that to infinitely trap any of those different Pokemon there, which is really nice compared to something like Maractus or the Totodile, which will eventually knock him out. So that is useful, and of course that like relates to the control aspect of getting something stuck, but then also can use it for something like, say, Dragapult EX, and it is Pokemon with 70 HP or less, so it could be something with 60 HP or less, of course. If they have that, people aren't playing that as much, of course, because Dragapult is trying to snipe those Pokemon, but if you can get those down, or if you get something down with 70 and can ping it with like something, then you will be able to knock it out and get an easier prize, which they might not be expecting, which can be really useful. Not sure how good the idea of like sniping Pokemon using Mandibuzz is. I think it's okay. However, it's something that is like it's kind of slow, right? Mandibuzz isn't a super fast card because these are all stage ones here. However, Mandibuzz is a card that I think works better in a control style deck, offering both the utility of hand viewing and also the Pokemon getting stuck on the into play. But on the other hand, if you're going for a snipe strategy, you're mostly just focusing on the snipe aspect because viewing their hand is meaningful, but it's not as meaningful as it is with control, where you need to be playing around all their different cards. Versus in like just regular play, you don't need to be playing around as many things. Like if they have, I do need to be playing around like boss, but if they have research, it's like or like Iono. I don't know. You still need to play around them some. Maybe I'm underrating it in regular decks, and maybe it is good in something like Dragapult. Tell me down below in the comments. As I said, I'm really interested in hearing your thoughts on these cards because I want some deck ideas. I'm not gonna lie, that's partially why I'm doing this. And if you played it in a deck that's an attacking deck there. But then we have the next card here, which is another interesting stage one, of course, and it is a special stage one because it does not evolve from a Pokemon. I mean, it like kind of does. It does not say what it evolves from. It evolves from Anti-Cover Fossil, which is an item, but once you play it, it's a Pokemon. It's one of the fossil Pokemon. It's actually immune to damage, or no, affects some attacks. Not damage, but damage counters. So it's immune to Dragapult EX, which is like super nice. But then you have the attack here, Ancient Seaweed for 1 water on a stage 1, which is 30 for each item in your opponent's discard pile. This card is definitely, I think the one that was the most to break down is definitely got to be the Mandibuzz, which is like a unique card that's also pretty different and versatile. But Tirtouga is pretty straightforward here, doing damage based on items, and so it's doing a certain amount of damage. You can't really like boost it up. You can kind of mess with your opponent and force him to play more resources to get out of a situation, but that's probably not like super great of an idea. I will also mention Tirtouga, though, does, in terms of depth, have 2 stage 2s that evolve from it. You have the Aerocosta from Black Bolt, which has the ability, which makes it immune to Pokemon with special energy attached, which is okay. But I'd say most decks in the game that use special energy are using it as like something that they don't commit to, something like Dragapult, where you have special energy on. I mean, you need it for like Monkey Dory if you're playing Monkey Dory, but you don't need it on Dragapult necessarily. Certainly, you could attack with the first attack without special energy. You can presumably attack with the second attack without special energy as well, but it can be difficult. Depends what their energy counts are. But that is like an interesting card there, but it's not like amazing. It's situational, and even in the situations where it's good, it's just kind of okay. The other Carracosta increases damage done to evolutions by 30 in the active, so that's like okay. It's a stage 2, and it's also evolving from your attacker, so you're presumably losing your attacker unless you're using Relicanth, which is like kind of cool, but seems like a lot of pieces. So the Carracostas are just okay. I'd say they're more of an afterthought than a really nice piece. I will also mention there's actually a Carracosta and expanded I've been messing around with, and it is like it's kind of like Jamming Tower. So it's like I believe it's actually the same as Jamming Tower. I think for your opponent, stopping their effects of their tools, which is pretty cool, and like potentially worth playing. Of course, expanded isn't like as thought out or as played of a format, but Tirtouga is like kind of cool there because people are playing more aggressive decks. So in standard, most of the decks aren't super aggressive, especially in terms of items, especially because Badoo is floating around in the game, and Badoo is being bad for Tirtouga here. That being said, it should be doing like at least 90, probably somewhere between 90 and 180 if I had to guess, which is like an okay range to be hitting for 1 energy on a stage 1 here. It is a fossil evolution. I don't think that's like the end of the world for it. I've heard a lot of people say that this card is just unplayable because of it's a fossil evolution. I do think it. I mean, it definitely makes the card worse because you can't search out fossils the way you search out Pokemon. Pokemon you can search out, notably using Buddy Buddy Poffin, but also Nest Ball, Ultra Ball, and you're playing a lot of different outs in your deck, and they're pretty much all outs to. If Anti-Cover Fossil was a 60 HP basic, they'd all be outs to it. And it's not. So you can't search it out. You can't search it out with Artizone. You can get it with like Arven, but even then, you could yeah, but anyway, pop with Arven and get two basics if it was a regular Pokemon, so it's definitely awkward, but it isn't like the biggest issue, especially because this attack isn't an attack you're going to be using all the time and not going to be using early game either. And also, it has the defensive ability on the bench or in play. I think it's from anywhere, so it could be, again, protected from Dragapult. Could be other things as well. But Tirtouga is a Pokemon that I think it's ultimately how good it is based on how good it is, not just because it's a fossil. But its attack is, again, it's not like insanely strong. Theoretically, it could be really amazing at times, especially if you kind of force your opponent to play a lot of items. When I say force them to play a lot of items, I'm talking about them, you like trapping them, or not necessarily trapping them, but like removing their resources in some way, and then forcing them to play more to get out of that awkward situation. There's lots of different ways to do it. Trapping definitely could be forcing them to dig for a certain card, but ultimately it's not like you don't have that much control over your opponent's resources there. You could pair it with Mill, I guess, but that seems pretty bad because then you're going to be wasting a lot of turns. Really, you could say like, oh, I could go all in on Mill, or could start doing tons of damage with the Tirtouga, but you really need to be taking one shots on two prizes with Tirtouga, which could be doable if your opponent has a lot of basic EXs in play, or not. If they don't have a lot of basic EXs in play, it just won't be doable. So like, I think most of the time Tirtouga won't be enough in that situation. I think it's interesting as a Pokemon paired with something like luminous energy or something kind of like that, where it's just one energy attachment and it's not a huge commitment within the deck. It's going to be like a 2-2 line, which again, like the less you play of the basic here, the harder it is to find. I popped into Dragapult and it didn't go super well. I guess. I mean, it went like kind of okay, but I also didn't really use Tirtouga much, so that was not, a good sign for this card. But you need to have some draw engine, which is just drawing you a bunch of cards to hopefully find your Tirtouga. I think it's a cool card. And I think the damage is all right. It's pretty good, but it is also kind of awkward here. Then we have the third card that I'm super excited to talk about, which is the Zoroark here from White Flare. With its attack here, Mind Jack for 1 Darkness, doing 30 for each of your opponent's bench Pokemon, which is solid. Nothing too crazy to break down here. You're doing decent damage. Obviously, kind of depends on the situation. Could be really good against Area Zero Underdaps. Most of the time, it's just kind of okay. And then Foul Play here for 3 colorless, which is a little harder to pay because it is not payable with 1 basic, but it is payable with an Ignition Energy here, and is potentially the best Ignition Energy attack in the game. And it says you choose one of your opponent's active Pokemon's attacks and use it as this attack, so the same attack as Mew EX, which is okay, right? It's not an insane attack, but it can be insane. It also is particularly good because it can hit weakness on Dragon Pokemon with the help of Lily's Clefairy EX, so it could be really good, specifically against Dragapult EX there, which Zoroark can't do. But Zoroark is like pretty solid with its 2 attacks. I think it's really cool. Not sure what to play it in. I will say this card would be like so much better if the Zoroark EX was a Pokemon that was the same evolution line as this Zoroark, but it's not, so that's really unfortunate. But it is the same evolution line as the Zoroark from, I misspelled that, Zoroark from, what is it, Shrouded Fable, I think? Yeah, and it has the attack here, Illusory Hijacking, which for 2 colors does 60 for each opponent's Pokemon EX and a V in play. This is harder to pay than, it's about as easy to pay as the second attack, Mind Jack or whatever it is. Oh no, Foul Play on the new Zoroark, because it's 2 colors here and then evolution is supposed to 3, but you're probably paying it with an Ignition Energy here. But it also is kind of similar to the first attack on the new Zoroark, because this one does damage based on your opponent's Pokemon in play. The other one also does. And you're probably going to be targeting basic EXs, I think. Not sure. I mean, the other one's going to struggle to take 1-shots on 2 prizers, but this one definitely can if your opponent's playing like Raging Bolt and plays a bunch of EXs down. You could theoretically 1-shot a Raging Bolt EX, so that's like pretty good. And I think Ignition Energy becomes really interesting with these 2 Zoroarks here. They're not really deck build arounds, kind of like Tirtouga, where you're a Pokemon that's like somewhat situational, dependent on what your opponent does. They can play around it and have some some issues, like if they're not playing items for Tirtouga or playing Pokemon for this, then they are putting themselves back. But also, then you're not gonna be able to do anything if this is your only Pokemon. So I also try to put this in with Dragapult, because I actually had the idea, which was to pair it with Crisis. What's it? Crisis Punch. I think no Crisis. Yeah, Crisis Punch, the Technical Machine tool card, which is 280 if your opponent has one prize remaining, and can be paid for just one Ignition Energy, which is really interesting. You slap that on any evolution Pokemon, and then just slap the energy on, and can do a really big attack at the end of the game, kind of like Bloodmere Saluna EX, except it's a little bit different. You put it on a Pokemon that's a single prizer, or well, no, being a single prizer is actually not meaningful, because your opponent only has one prize remaining, but you can use it on a Pokemon that is has more HP, like Dragapult EX or something like that. So it is like kind of interesting. I don't know how good that combo is, but it definitely caught my eye with Ignition Energy there. But again, I don't know how good Zoroark is. I think it could be cool, but I think it's like coming up a little short. Speaking of expanded, though, it like is nice with the expanded Zoroark and Zoroark GX as well, for a draw engine, and the Zoroark from Evolving Skies allowing you to play different stage ones. So you have this like really crazy Zoroark box type of deck, which I am actually working on. I'm not quite ready to make a video on, but I think it is a really cool concept there. But yeah, those three stage ones I think are cool. I think Tirtouga and Zoroark could work well together as like situational attacking Pokemon. But they are kind of clunky as well. They don't cover all situations, so not sure what the missing piece is, or if there is a missing piece that'll make it like, oh, okay. I mean, I don't expect it to be like amazing, but I expect it to be. I feel like it can be decent. But again, not really sure if it is, if it's quite gonna get there. Then we have a few more interesting stage ones, though. We have Volcarona here with this ability towards scales, saying that you can use this ability by discarding a basic fire from your hand, and then you make your opponent's active burned. Volcarona isn't super good, I'm not gonna lie. Actually, I think it's kind of bad, except for with the Mega Camera FDX, which I think is super good, which is like shockingly divisive. I've heard some people say it's like insanely good, and some people saying it's like super bad. So that's like kind of crazy. I'm not exactly sure how good it is. I think it is gonna be pretty good. I don't think it's insanely good. I'm a little in the middle on it. Though I do think it is the best of the Megas, because the Megas as a whole are like, okay, I'd say they're pretty mediocre. Mediocre is not bad, but it's not amazing. But Volcarona works super well with Mega Camera Up DX, and notably Volcanion EX, which kind of outclasses Volcarona most of the time, does not work with Mega Camera Up DX. So, or it like kind of works with it, but I don't think it works quite as well as Volcarona here. So, Volcarona kind of cool with that figure. I would mention it, though. Right now, I think it's not super good. Oh, I should also mention the other stage one that works with burn, which is the Magmortar as well, which increases burn damage, which is meaningful, though. If you want like Volcarona and then a bunch of Magmortars, and then you also want Mega Camera Up DX, then you have like all these stage ones in play, which you're like never going to get. So, I mean, you could theoretically get, especially using Hyper Aroma, but also I think you're going to struggle to get all those working, and then like doing that consistently, and you'll probably have some weak link that's going to get knocked out there. But then we have the next stage one here, Swadloon. This one's kind of bad, unfortunately. I think it has some potential, but it's also outclassed by another card here, which is Munkidori, of course, a very solid card, a very good card in the game right now. Its ability Healing Leaves, though Swadloon can heal 20 from your active. The difference between this and Munkidori does require a Darkness, which is a substantial commitment to the card. However, Munkidori also has a lower retreat cost, higher HP, is a basic, which is the biggest deal. And also, well, no, actually, it does damage and actually heals more as well, and can heal from not your active. It's like way better in every other way. Recording energy, as I said, is like a noticeable deal, but like being, I think, a stage one offsets the requiring energy there, in my opinion. And then again, Munkidori is like better in every other way. There are some wait, is Leavanny the stage 2? Yeah, there's a Leavanny. There might be 2. I don't remember. There is one Leavanny in standard apparently, which isn't like super good, but actually it's pretty bad. But Swadloon's kind of interesting, just like, heavily outclassed by Munkidori. Not that it would be good if Munkidori wasn't in the format. I think it's kind of okay. It's like not super strong, right? If it healed like 40, I think it would be all right. But healing 20 every turn's like kind of okay. If you're leaning into a tanky style deck, it could have value if Munkidori wasn't in the game. Of course, Munkidori is, though, so we see lots of tanky decks with Munkidori. Sometimes like really handicapping themselves, forcing themselves to get lots of energy on Munkidori. Not like wasting turns, but like spending a lot of turns and not doing damage because they're attaching into Munkidori, but then they're like healing a lot of damage and actually doing damage in the process as well from their abilities. Then we have the next two cards here, which are Escavalier and Excelgor. And I believe if you have what the Shelmet and the Carolest in play together, yeah, if they're both in play, they can evolve turn one slash the turn you play it here. And then Excelgar is, I don't think, super good. For one grass, you do 50, and on a coin flip, you discard energy from your opponent's active. I think energy discarding is like okay, but it's also a coin flip, so not quite good enough here. But then Escavalier is a little more interesting, and you view it kind of as a basic, which is why it's kind of good. It's not a basic, which is a big difference, but it can be played similarly. Um, Doing 90 for one, and then 30 to yourself. 30 to yourself isn't a huge deal here, I don't think. But it's obviously you'd probably presumably rather not be doing that. But then you have for one doing 90 is like pretty solid, right? It's not amazing. But it's, I mean, I guess if it was a basic, then this Pokemon would be pretty good. We see like Fanrotom being okay as a basic. As an attacker, it's a pretty solid basic with its ability, but as just an attacker, it's like not spectacular. I guess it's like mostly played in Raging Bolt now, where it doesn't really get as much of a chance to shine as you're kind of looking for a turn one attack. You can offer a Raging Bolt, but you couldn't get that above something like Flareon. We can also get a turn one attack with Flareon, can't you? But anyways, so especially if you're playing something like Terrapagos, then I think, or even like Terrabox, then you're looking for like a turn one Fan Rotom sometimes to take an early prize, which can be nice or bad. It could be bad, but it could be good, and it needs a stadium as well. But I think the Escavalier is kind of interesting. I don't think it's good enough. I was gonna say I don't think it's quite good enough. I don't think it's good enough at all, but it is kind of interesting, and I wanted to include it in this video here. Then we have the last stage one, which is Crustle. There, I will mention the Crustle from yeah, Destined Rivals. I was like, which set is it from? Yeah, this is the Destined Rivals Crustle, which is immune to EXs. And it's a really cool card. Actually, one of the main decks I've been playing with the new Dwebble, which does damage based on damage counters on it using like Relicanth and stuff. But anyways, this is not the new Crustle. The new Crustle has an ability here, Sturdy, which says if it would be one-shotted, then its HP becomes 10. Kind of like these, I think exactly the same ability as Pikachu EX. I'm pretty sure, not like same name, but same effect, I think, and then it has an attack here 80 or 140 for 3, 2 fighting and a color, or sorry, 2 colorless and a fighting, which is okay. This card kind of has interesting synergy with the new Gigalith, but the new Gigalith is also like kind of bad. So this card is kind of interesting though. I said the Gigalith is kind of bad. The Gigalith is horrendous. I was going to make a video on a deck with Gigalith, but it was like super bad. This I think is the best partner for it, but it's like kind of cool as well, potentially being paired with the Crustle from Destined Rivals, but also, it's like not super strong. Well, its attack's pretty bad, and its ability isn't like amazing. It's okay. If it had a decent attack, I think this Pokemon would be pretty solid, especially with the fact that it has a really solid evolution line, and also the Dwebble has solid synergy with it as well, with Flail doing damage based on damage counters on it, but also you are like super weak. You have 10 HP at that point, so if your opponent has like Monkey Dory or like Poison or something, then you're knocked out, right? So your ability has substantial limitations, and it's not a super strong card. I did want to mention it in this video, but maybe I'm underrating some of these cards. I'm sure I'm overrating some as well. But I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell, all that good stuff. And as always, I'm excited to see you in the next one.